Hey everybody. So recently I posted on Home Theater Forum that I was picking up a NX7 JVC, or you call it the RS2000, and I'm upgrading from a 5050 UB Epson. And there's actually a lot of people that showed interest in the comparison and what I would think about that, because the NX7 is now coming down in price far enough that it's attainable for some of us that don't want to spend a ton of money. It's still a lot of money, of course, but when you look at how much, if you are coming from a 5050 or similar, something like that, you can now pick up these JVC NX7s used, or like I did, I picked it up on a deal that actually the screening room was running. They purchased some of these, I believe, direct from JVC, and so they still came with a warranty, 1 year through JVC, and then also I think a 4 or 5 year warranty it was through them. But it only covers you up to the cost of what you paid. I paid $3,500. So that included the tax and shipping and everything. So that's a pretty good deal in comparison to the 5050 UBs were usually around upper 2000s, close to around $3,000. I picked up my 5050 UB. I paid, let's see, I paid in 2020, I paid $2,700 for mine. And that was a little sale that I found running. I think I got 10% off that as well. So I've had it about 4.5 years. And then I saw this NX7 deal come up, and I thought, the blacks are where it's at. Why am I wanting this projector? It's because of the blacks that JVC has. And also, with the automatic tone mapping that JVC offers since their updates, it's kind of almost a set it and forget it, and that's where I'd like to be. I don't want to go in and I don't want to fiddle with the projector for every movie. I don't want to go in and watch the movie somewhat and say, is this a dark movie? Is this a light movie? Because on the 5050 UB, there's an HDR slider, and you can go and adjust that, and you can move it up and down. If it's adjust it for a darker movie or whatever, make it a little bit lighter. You also have automatic iris on the 5050 UB, which is great in itself, but it's not something I want to do all the time. And I do dinner movie nights quite often in my house, and I just want to go in and enjoy it with everybody else. I'm not trying to fiddle with everything all the time. I want to get it set up nice, and I've done some calibrations on it. Nothing major, but I've gone in and tried some other people's settings. Obviously, you want to set it to your own room, and I've adjusted from there. So I have a complete light-controlled theater, as you'll see. I'm running a 135-inch silver ticket screen. It's just a regular white screen. I believe they're a 1.1 gain. I do have, acoustics and all that. I'll maybe do a room tour at some point or whatever, but that's one of the reasons that I was ready to also do the JVC upgrade. This is the last generation JVC though. So when I say upgrade, it's not quite a lateral. It's not quite an upgrade because I'm not going to the newer laser models. But I was actually looking at the MP5 as well, which is one of the, from this new generation, still running a lamp. Because from what I understand and watching a lot of info online and showdowns, the lasers, the black levels are still very similar to the NX7 or the those generation lamp ones. But the newer ones do have laser dimming, whereas I believe that's pretty much why they won out, in a lot of the showdowns that they've done recently. But right now you can pick up an Epson 5050 UB. They are renewed on Amazon right now, $22.99. If you're interested in that, those I'll post a link to those. A replacement bulb direct from Epson I'm showing is $330. Pretty affordable. I mean, when you look at how long you can use this and then buy another lamp and throw it in there, that's not bad. And you've got pretty new specs then, like basically a new projector. The NX7, Amazon is carrying that right now for $5,700. Used, you can find a way better deal. And like I did, every once in a while, I looked online and I saw that they've ran this deal before. I'm not sure if it was Screening Room that ran it, but some people have gotten their hands on these and ran a similar deal. I was actually trying to buy the NX9. I was going to go for the YOLO, not buy another one for a while, but I'm kind of glad it worked out this way after reading everything. you know, the NX9 would have been a once in a lifetime thing. I would have blown my budget, let's say. I would have probably sold one of my motorcycles. That's like my other hobby that I put money into. But I think this worked out good. And hopefully my comparison here is going to help you decide whether you would want to move from a 50-50 or buy a 50-50, but maybe from a 50-50 to a JVC. So about every 5 years, it looks like, you know, I'm upgrading here. Let's see, the JVC NX7 was discontinued from them in January of 2023. So you can see it's really not that old. Let's see, the lamps you can get $600 new from JVC, but $275 from other places. A note on the lamps: this is the same. This goes for all of them. The Epson as well. Any projectors. You're going to be able to pick up these projector lamps from other places, but many times they're using what they'll say is the original actual bulb, but the housing will be different. And you know, that's not such a big deal. The housing is basically, you know, it's just plastic housing that's holding the bulb. But to make sure that you're actually going to get the real original lamp and everything, for the Epson, I would definitely go just probably direct from Epson for $330. Yeah, it's, you could get it a lot cheaper, but for $330, as long as you're going to use it, why not? Now, $600 direct from JVC for the JVC lamp, yeah, you know, I might look around. I just don't see a lot of people posting feedback on this stuff and actually saying, hey, I got it from Pure Land Supply or whatever, you know. So, and then, you know, that it turned out well for them. So I'm going to go over some of the stats on these, and you're going to understand maybe what could work better for you and how these compare. So the 50-50 and NX7, automatic tone mapping. Obviously, like I said, NX7 has that. And I said on the 50-50, you're going to have to go in and adjust the slider. Now that with the update they've done on the NX7, it does frame-by-frame tone adapting. And what that means is it's looking at the brightness in the actual movie or whatever you're watching, and it's going to adjust for that. So if it's going to be a dimmer scene, it's going to set things where you're going to get the most pop and everything out of a darker scene, and things won't look washed out. HDR10, that's what they both have that. Lumens, the light output of these. The 50-50 puts out 2,600 lumens. The thing's a light cannon. The NX7 is 1,900. And when you do introduce the color filters, you know, which is like the cinema color profile on the 50-50, or if you're going to be going into the wide, it's called the wide color, whatever, on the NX7. Same thing. They just have different. They call them different things. I'm trying to learn all this as well. They reduce the light output is what I'm trying to say. I've heard 15-20% around there. So your lumens will be cut down as soon as you introduce that color filter, and that color filter is what's helping the projector reach, you know, the full spectrum of colors, and so it can show the picture the best. The 50-50 Epson is pixel shift. It is not native 4K. So what that means is it's doing a 1920 by 1080 two times very fast. So it's still going to give you what looks to be a 4K image. It's fast. You're not so fast you're not going to see it, but it is not a native 4K. Whereas the JVC does a 4096 by 2060. These both are at 60 hertz. So you're the same there. They both have lens shift and lens memory. So what that means is if you're switching from a 16:9, you know, it's going to take up the full 16:9 screen. Or if you want to, and then you want to go down to your scope screen, which is like a letterbox movie, you can set the whole thing up, put it how you like it, set the focus, move the lens shift around, and save that into the projector memory. And then you'll just be able to hit a button. So, you know, a lot of things I'll watch, you know, maybe some Netflix things or like Game of Thrones or whatever, like something like that. It's going to be 16:9. It's going to take the whole screen up. But then when you go to a movie, you're going to want to bring that back down to a letterbox. And on my screen, I actually even put masking at the top. So I'll even bring it down to the scope letterbox, and then I'll even move that down to the bottom of the screen, so I can just have to put masking on top, and then I just hit a button, and it'll move the whole thing. It'll also actually save the settings too that you input in there for. So you could do different ones. You could do ones for kind of a dark movie. You could do one for a lighter movie. You can adjust, your different light settings on there and things like that. So it's not just moving the actual picture on the screen. It'll save the other inputs you do as well. There is a power lens cover, just something of note on the 50-50 UB. It'll actually close when you turn the projector off, and that just protects the lens. That means nothing else can touch it. I don't know if mine's ceiling mounted. If somebody were to go in there and touch that, they would be banned from my theater for their life. Well, at least until I'm dead. But that does not exist on the NX7. I guess it could stop dust from getting in there and everything, but I don't think that's really a concern. But that is not on the NX7. They both do 3D. The out of the box, the 50-50 is good to go. The NX7 needs an emitter you need to buy. It's around $100, and then that will actually emit a signal that will work with 3D glasses. And they're both, like I said, they're both going to be lamp-based projectors. One thing to note is, like I said, on the 50-50, I went in and I changed some things around to try and get the best pictures, and you can save those as a lens, as not a lens memory, but you can save it as a memory for just actually your settings. And on that, you can go in and you could do an HDR like setup, you could do an SDR setup, you could do a 1080p setup, and you can just save them all, and you can hit your memory button, and you can select that one. So pretty cool there. But that's how you have to do those settings. It's all manual input. JVC on the NX7 and their other projectors, they have what's called auto calibration. And I will be doing this, but for my comparisons of what I've just looked at, I spent a lot of time in the theater today. I took some pictures and stuff, and we'll get into that. But JVC offers an auto calibration, and to do the auto calibration, you're going to need a there's different tools for this. The one that I've seen that's actually affordable and it looks fairly user friendly. I watched someone calibrate with it. It was a Spider, I believe. I'm not sure. I don't think you need the Pro. I'll post a link to that below, the one they used. But basically, you're going to take that. You're going to put it in front of the screen. It's going to be able to actually see the light, the brightness, the colors, and it'll also connect to a laptop and then to your projector itself. And then it'll make adjustments, and it'll save them. You can save them in there. You can, if you want to do an SDR one, I believe, an HDR one, and I don't know. I mean, you could do several different ones, but I know that the actual breakdown of the review and how-to that I watched explained it pretty well. So I might, later on we'll see if I do that, if it's something that I want to tackle doing. Most of the time, I'm doing reviews of car install parts on my Bronco. So I don't know if I want to take that on, but we shall see. I'm definitely going to do that calibration though later on because I think it's easy enough, it's affordable enough, and gosh darn it, I'm going to do it. Okay, a couple other notes to make. I've already obviously watched some things with the JVC. I still have my 50-50 mounted on the ceiling. The JVC is actually just sitting on the back bar, and I had them both set up so I could compare, obviously. I mean, why not if you have the opportunity? I wanna hopefully get the other one sold before too long. But like I said, the reasons I've gone with this are the blacks. We watch a lot of horror movies, and a lot of my friends like horror. So when they come over, we're sometimes do some dinner, themed for whatever. And we go in and we're watching this movie, and it is dark most of the time. So you notice those black levels, and I'm actually just like, basically that's the main reason. If we were watching bright movies, like Aquaman all the time, the 50-50 is fine. It throws a wonderful picture as far as I'm concerned. I've been very happy with it for 5 years now. So one thing that I did notice about the NX7 right off the bat, I could noticeably see the iris adjusting the light up and down in a couple things that I watched. Now, these were ripped movies. You know, I don't know if that's a part of the problem there or not, but I doubt it. Never, and I can't see it in the other projector. But that's due to the automatic tone mapping there. And what I found out was happening was the iris was open and closing automatically, and that was on. So, or the aperture, as we like to call it, if we're a JVC owner now. But I went in, I talked to people, got some feedback, and they just said turn it off. So I don't know. It's an automatic iris that's built into the machine. I thought, you know, maybe it should stay on all the time because it's there and you know you paid for it. But it makes sense, I guess, because your tone mapping is going to take care of a lot of that already. It's going to take care of adjusting for the light output. Apparently, that's, you know, the aperture is not necessarily needed. But so you can turn the automatic aperture off on the JVC, and then you can go in and you can adjust it, like a -1 to a -7 or 10 or whatever. So I've got it about a -1. The NX7 also has, you know, it has low and high on your lamp. I run low. And when you go into the theater optimizer, which is one of the new updates on there, you actually can go in, you can set your screen size, you can set the gain of your screen, and it's going to help adjust, and it's also going to know your lamp life, obviously, and it's supposed to help it adjust and keep things set up nicely for when your lamp gets older, it gets dimmer, and just for your screen size of how much light it needs to output. So inside that as well, there is also a optimizer level, and you can do low, medium, or high. And basically, that's going to just give you low, medium, or high brightness within that setting. So I've found that while medium might give you, it might be a little darker. You know, maybe you think it's going to be a better contrast. The high is where it's at for that, especially on, I'm running a 135-inch screen, and when I put it on high, yeah, things are brighter, but it makes them pop then. And that's where the key was to me getting it to look much better. Sorry, the house assistant just told me to take the trash out. So I have an OLED TV, and I know what ultimate blacks are. Once you have an OLED, you're ruined. You're ruined. It's going to ruin you for your projector. It's just going to ruin you for any other TV. It is what it is. It's amazing because the pixels can completely shut off. They're just black because they're turned off. So you look at these projectors and you just want to get as good as you can to that, and the contrast is where it's at. So and I have the masking, and I have the light controlled room to do it. So that's where we're at. One other thing to note is low latency mode on the JVC does exist, but as I understand it, the Epson is great for latency, for gaming. Now, and that's why I'm saying this. If you're not a gamer, don't care, don't worry, don't listen to me about this part, but I've gamed a little bit on the Epson, but I'm not playing competitive stuff online, except for Halo is about as competitive as I get, which is, let me tell you, awesome with a couple 15-inch model with subs when you're on the 50 cal on the back of the Warthog shooting it. I haven't played it since I put the butt kickers in, but I have just 4 Aura sounds that I installed recently. If any of you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, I might can do another video for it if you ask me. In the room, we're running a Denon AVR X4500. So that allows me, I've got a 7.4.4 setup, basically all clips, you know, big surprise there. Except I do have, two clips 12 inches, subwoofers, and then I have 2 monoprice mono with 15-inch subs. Then I have the 4 Aura Sound Pro butt kickers in my back row of 4 with a 250 watt amp. And I have 8 seats, 2 rows of 4. I have a bar in the back, and it's about a 13-foot wide by 21-foot long room, which used to be 2 bedrooms. And since I have no children in there, I busted the wall down, I turned it into one big theater. And we like to entertain, we have people over. So the wife and I have no regrets on that. But that took some doing. I built the whole room myself. Other than doing some mudding on some of the drywall, which is not my forte, I built the whole thing over some time. It was some time for sure. But let's try and get some of the pictures and some of the review of actually what we're looking at, and I'll go over and tell you what I'm seeing. You know, like everybody always says in these, I don't know how well it's going to come out on the camera, so pay more attention to what I'm saying because I'm looking at it in person, and I can tell you the differences. And let's get to it. All right. Instead of just starting off in the dark theater, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick walk-in. So this is down the hallway. I've got my video poster TV setup. This is super simple. The best way I could find, if you find the right TV running that can run a Plex app, that's what's up. It's no little computer necessary, no nothing. You're using the Wi-Fi and the app built into the TV, and you just change the things, the pictures over, so they'll run in a flipped. It flips the picture around and then actually sets the setting for the resolution of the TV. Really easy. I probably maybe could just throw something together, a little DIY how to do that. All right, so when the movie's getting ready to start, I open the doors up all the way. That way it's just a lot more open. These doors actually used to open up into the rooms because that's just the way they build houses. They, you know, the doors will go into the room and set into the hallway, but that was kind of a pain in the butt when you had speakers and everything. So anyway, here's a look at the theater real quick. If anybody's interested, I can do a walkthrough and show things a little better. We're using that 135-inch silver ticket. This video was actually done here after I already pulled the Epson off the ceiling mount. So the Epson was mounted up there, and I was running the JVC down here. And my rack's over here. So you can see I had some extra stuff hooked up here so we could do a duplicate mirror display. And yeah, so that's it. And let's get to some comparisons. First off, let's start looking at the JVC side here. Real quick, I want to show you what I was talking about. If I mentioned it earlier, the theater optimizer, it was part of the updates. So you have your HDR setting, your frame adapt HDR, which this detects this is the JVC again. This detects the signal coming in, so it switched to this automatically. It put the color profile on, which is wide, which is basically the color filter, which you would call that like cinema on the Epson 5050. And I have the processing set to frame by frame. It just automatically went there. Theater optimizer is on, and let's go. Oh, I went to the wrong part here. So I'm on low power for the lamp. You go into theater optimizer, and the optimizer level, the optimized level here is what I was going to show you. So high, this is almost just like another lamp setting basically. So here, before I show you that, screen size is 130, mine's at 135. You can set your screen gain, and now I'll go from high to medium here, and you'll see picture drops down. And I mean, for some things this might be better, but I found that things pop, even when it's a dark scene, I found that things pop better in the mid, or the high, sorry. And you know, maybe that's because I'm coming from the 50-50. I'm just used to a much brighter scene. So anyway, you can go right here to the screen setting, and that allows you to enter in your screen size and whatnot. There is a screen number. I believe if you set that in there, it kind of goes along with what your gain for your screen would be. I haven't looked that up yet for the JVC deal, but when you go and calibrate the screen using the spider or whatever calibration tool, or if you have you know, some nerd come over to your house and do it for you. No offense, nerds. I'm envious of what you can do and hoping to learn. But when they come over, they might bring who knows what kind of crazy tools, and they're going to calibrate for your screen, for your room, for everything. I don't, from what I understand, there's really no reason to set that unless you just want to and give it a try. You know, there's nothing to hurt with that. So let's get out of here. And earlier I had this set up to where it actually, I was doing full screen for both of them, for both projectors, and what I was doing was just blocking off the sides of the displays. And I honestly could not tell the difference between what was going on most of the time. They looked so close. And, you know, like I said, I'm not a calibrator. I've adjusted both of these to where I like the pictures the most, and that's where I've left them at. And you know, from what I've read, from what I looked at, I've done, you know, a decent amount of research. I've had the 50-50 a long time, obviously. This is where I feel like they both look the best, as far as just out of the box goes, and you know, and messing with the settings. Um, I'm sure you could go in and I'm sure make these look better. And you know, and when people do these side by side comparisons, I mean, they're stopping. I mean, you know, especially these like shootouts and stuff. They're going in and they're adjusting everything. You know, they've got these things perfectly calibrated. But for a regular Tom, Dick, and Harry, yeah, you know, you're not going to be able to do that. So this is best out of the box. I will, like I said, be calibrating this later. But let's go ahead and through, and I'm going to stop on some different scenes. This is just the first scene I stopped on right here. Of course, Ready Player One, it shows some washed out stuff until they actually get into the, you know, he's in the virtual world. Now, this is side by side. On the left, there's no secret here, is the JVC. On the right is the Epson 50-50 UB. Now, if you crank up the brightness anymore on the Epson, it's gonna get a little more washed. And I have the lamp power on Eco on the 50-50, so it's low as it'll go, and I have the lamp power on the JVC on low as well. But I do have that theater optimizer on high, as I just showed you. So you can look at these, and it almost looks like you're getting a little more light with the JVC, but you're still getting the darks. But I mean, if these weren't side by side, you're splitting hairs here. You're not going to know any difference. And if you actually look up top at the dark scenes underneath the I don't know, what is it, a mobile home, over that mobile home, you can still see just about the same amount of detail on both of these, where the dark is, and you can see the you know, the cables and the frame and everything. So let's go on to a different one. Okay, this has some dark and light in it. I think it's a good one to stop on and look at. So you can just see that you've got the dark on the JVC, but it is definitely a little darker overall. And if you look at the scumbag's hair on the right, you've lost some detail there, whereas you can see the detail on his hair on the 50-50 on the right. But if you look at the shadowing and everything on the face of Wade Watts, it's a lot darker. You're not seeing the skin tones pop out as much, and you know, and his big luscious lips there are not as red. But it's just kind of overall, it just doesn't pop as much. When I look at like the flowers and the light down there shining, I don't really notice much difference. The curtains and everything in the back, not much difference. The wallpaper, it shows maybe a little more detail in the color variation on the JVC, whereas on the right, on the 50-50, it's just kind of a little more, shall we say, like monotone. But the colors are a little more, Let's just leave it at that. The colors are a little more on the JVC on the left, but you are you know, you're losing a little bit with maybe some of the lighter detail, but you know, that can just be the brightness and everything there. I do notice a difference in the bars, the actual gray bars. It's a little darker on the JVC. Try and not pay attention to the middle between the two pictures, you know, because that's just going to kind of be a blurry spot where it's just going to be, they're both kind of touching there, and they're not going to be looking good for either one in the middle. But let's move on from there. Here's another good one, just to show you that, you know, if these aren't side by side, the Epson on the right looks good. It looks great. There's, you know, it's just a matter of the colors popping a little more with the contrast of the JVC. I really think that's, you know, that's the kicker. You know, if you're not doing this comparison and you're not looking at these side by side, so far, you know, it wouldn't be a big deal. And this is just another instance of the colors popping. It looks good on the 50-50. You've got some good blacks, and the color looks fine. But when it's direct comparison to the JVC, you can see the colors just pop more. And I think that's kind of just a consensus for the whole thing here. The colors just pop more on the JVC. I think that's what we're seeing. Okay, we're on Gods and Exodus now. By the way, the Ready Player One was also a 4K disc as well as this. You know, we might be beating a dead horse here now. You know, both pictures look great. The details there. I do want to also point out that one thing that I found when I'm trying to focus both these projectors in is that the 50-50 just comes crisper and sharper when you're actually right up at the screen and you're focusing in. That 50-50 gets on it. I mean, it is crisp. And the JVC, it's just softer. I cannot get it to become quite as focused and crisp and exact as the 50-50, no matter what I do. But you know, I mean, that's right when you're on the screen, and there's maybe a couple other times where I've noticed it in movies where it's showing something with, you know, a really, really high level of detail. I don't know. I think it's just, you know, the two different types of technology is what it is, as far as I understand it. But again, here in this picture, we've got some brights, we've got some darks, colors, and you know, both pictures look outstanding. You gotta just look at the colors pop a little more again on the JVC. The lady's shoulder, her right, my left. You know, it's got some better contrast on the JVC, I guess. But you know, if that wasn't there, meh. You know, you'd be fine with the 50-50. So let's rock on. All right, here's an interesting one. I'm trying to focus this camera the best I can for you guys. It's, you know, I can't even see on the screen if it's really showing very well or not. So again, grain of salt what you see. Listen up from what I'm saying, because I'm looking at it on the you know, the big movie screen here. More detail on the JVC on the mountain, where it kind of gets darker. And again, try not to pay attention to the middle section, but on that mountain there, where it starts to get darker in the shadow on the left side, it's definitely noticeable. There's more detail on the JVC. Down below, where there is a lot of stuff going on, I'm going to walk up here and actually check this out really close. You know, I have to get about this close. I'm about maybe 3 foot away, and I can see a little bit of the screen door effect on the 50-50. As far as these people go, and their horses and all this, their yurts, you know, it's pretty much the same thing. There's nothing you're going to figure out, and I'm sure as hell not watching the movie from 3 foot away anyway. So that's all the same going on. All right, here's a low light that I found. I think this is what's his nuts from Breaking Bad. I haven't actually seen this movie yet. I just picked up the disc from a Goodwill for $3 because they don't have a designation for a 4K disc set. It just got put on the shelf as a DVD. Anyway, on the left, the color's still there, but since it's dark, you know, nothing's popping as much because it's just a dark scene, low light, and it's at nighttime or dusk or whatever. On the right, it still looks great, but it's actually got a bit of a yellowish, maybe yellowish, greenish tint to it. And I think, you know, by itself, again, that would look fine, but direct comparison, you're noticing that. But it still is very detailed and looks good. It's just got that hue to it, whereas the JVC doesn't quite have that. I'll see if I can find now a bright scene. I had to throw this up real quick though, because it's just a toss-up for which one looks the best, really. They both look great. So here we go, a lighter scene. I bumped the Epson up to the middle lamp, so now it's looking just like the JVC as far as actual brightness goes on everything. It doesn't quite get the darks, but when you have a scene where there's not many darks, it looks great. I mean, it's and as we've already looked at in comparison, it's not far off in anything else really. It's just a direct comparison where it's going to fall short on some things. But yeah, any lighter scene, it looks great. All right, so it's gonna be a final scene I'm going to show here. We've got Batman. He's out in the desert, and again, the Epson's still on middle lamp, so it has the same brightness, excellent sharpness on everything. The only place where, again, in a direct comparison, it's going to fall short is it doesn't have quite the blacks and the color pop. And in a scene like this, there's not a ton of color popping, but you can see when you look at, well, at least when I look at it, I don't know if you can see it. I'm looking at the brown rock down at the bottom. It has a little more color to it on the JVC. His face looks about the same. It's a little more saturated on the Epson, but everything else is about the same. You'd be hard pressed to find much different. I can, however, hear the Epson when it's in middle lamp. I never run it in high lamp. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a conclusion here. Normally, of course, everyone's going to say it's up to you, and of course it is, and it's all subjective how much money you want to spend. So I have to do a little bit of a follow-up here of after the comparisons and me sitting in the theater and doing that. I've now had time to just use the whole screen for the JVC, watch some material on that, and I have to say that little bit of extra pop that you can see, like in when I was seeing the most comparisons, the Epson, just the colors feel a little more muted. Again, for my lack of better words for that, but that's just basically what it comes down to. The colors just don't quite pop as much, and there's obviously a little more contrast with the JVC. So once I've had time to have the JVC on the whole screen, I've watched several movies and some other things, and it does make a bigger difference. It adds up, and I think it's worth it. Is it worth it to pay $7-8 grand for that over $2,500 or whatever for the Epson? No, I don't think it is. And that's why obviously I didn't do it. I bought the Epson, and haven't even seen the JVC in person against the Epson. I couldn't justify spending that much money. My budget is not $8 grand, $7 grand, whatever, for a projector. I have other things I like to do. If that's all I like to do, yeah, sure. But so I kind of did even a little breakdown here about the pricing. So right now you can get the refurb Epson for about $2,200 on Amazon. And you can also find used ones on Marketplace and whatnot. So I'll put a link to the 50/50 on there. But if you could find a JVC NX7, you could. There's the other models too. But if you could find one of those for around $4,000, you're spending about $1,800 more over the course of 5 years, which is about how long I expect to have it. It seems like that's about the same amount of time I have all my projectors. That is $30 a month for 5 years. So you could totally save by not going out to the movie once a month, and I would pay for it if you look at it that way. If you find one for $1,500 more a month, or $1,500 more, it would be about $25 per month for 5 years. So if you look at it like that, it's not a lot, and I think for that much more money a month, and I ended up paying probably about $1,800 more after I sold, which a guy actually just came and picked up the Epson. It went quick. So on top of the Epson, I had to add about $1,800 to pick up the JVC, and the JVC I picked up for $3,500. No secret there. The screening room had some. I believe they're all gone now. They go fast. That's not the first time they've done that, but it's an awesome opportunity, and it's a B stock. It's, you know, it's refurb or whatever. So I mean, but they're awesome. They come from JVC. They got a warranty, and these guys are great at Screen Room. They dealt with some of my weird messages and texts to them, questioning some things and whatnot. But in the end, you know, I get there. So let's see. I've covered the lights. The colors are a little muted on the Epson. I did have all the lights in the room off to bring the black floor down as low as possible. So the Epson didn't have any advantage there. Okay, my neighbor kid's gone. He just got a 2-stroke. Bless his little heart. Okay. So, you know, all the sharing this information is great to get to know people in. It seems like such a big learning curve for when you actually want to go from a small projector to these big ones, that to really get the best out of it, you need to calibrate, you need to, you know, do some changes on it. I mean, it seems like, you know, oh, everybody says, you know, I need to have some guy come out and do this and that. And on some of these, yeah, and in some of these cases, it's worth it. If you have, you know, if you don't really have any inclination to learn how to do these things. So I think JVC with the auto calibration, as simple as that seems to be, which I'm going to do pretty soon, and then also their frame adapt, you know, they've set that thing up to just basically kind of be a set it and forget it. Once you put a little bit of effort into it in the beginning, that's really great. You know, what JVC's done there, and they continue to improve them. And, you know, they've made improvements on those the last year before they discontinued the NX series. Noise comparison. I don't know. I think they might be pretty similar. I had the JVC right on the shelf behind my head, so I could hear it definitely. But they're both very quiet. I think they might both be about the same on low lamp. I did also adjust the iris down further to get a little better contrast out of the JVC in the end. I think I went down to like a -7 because I have that on manual. I could notice sometimes when I was watching something with frame adapt that I could see the brightness notch up and down. Don't like that. It took me out of the immersion, so I put the iris on manual, and you can set that like a -1 to a -7, and that'll bring you up and down a little bit in the darkness, brightness, whichever one you say. So just that helped out a lot also in the end. But you know, that's just one more thing to mess with, and I'm not going to do that for every movie. So in the end, for me, it's worth it. I'm glad that I upgraded. You know, another $1,800 on top of my other one, and you know, it's not an upgrade. It's not a lateral move. Kind of just going up the mountain slowly at my own pace, and that's perfectly fine for me. A little bit more money, and this is going to get me by for another 5 years. And it's just always nice to upgrade to something. It doesn't matter if it's last gen's tech or not. For most of us, an upgrade to last generation's JVCs is going to be an upgrade. And I think it's a worthwhile one if you can find a good deal. So hunt your Facebook Marketplace, your Craigslist for some of these elderly gentlemen that don't use Marketplace. Look on OfferUp. And just be aware, you know, the lamp life, JVC lamps are not cheap. And if you're still on the fence about it and you don't want to still spend that extra money, the Epson 5050 is a killer projector. It's an awesome a deal for the price you can get them at now. And I think you know, basically that's your intro to the big leagues right there. That's what I kind of actually told the guy that picked the 5050 up. He's coming from a projector that was, you know, about a quarter of the size of the 5050, and then I showed him the JVC, and you know, I'm a little worried about putting that thing on the ceiling too, but I actually have the adapter on the way. So hope this video helps some people out. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. Anything else that you guys are interested in, I can throw some more videos together. I actually enjoy this stuff. Sometimes the tutorials I do on car installs is you know, little mundane, but this is actually another hobby of mine that I really love. Just anything to do with movies. So thanks.